Welcome to another edition of Week in One. I'm Masakora Tlhaga. We start in Johannesburg, where Metro police officers will accompany emergency services to certain crime hotspots. It comes after a spate of attacks on paramedics, most recently in Cosmo City. But does the JMPD have the capacity, and how long can this be kept up? ENCA's Nqobile Madlala filed this report.
Johannesburg Emergency Services decided to screen calls from Cosmo City after an attack on its personnel there. The City of Johannesburg's Public Safety Department says it's concerned about the increase in safety incidents. Now, EMS crews heading to certain areas will be accompanied by the JMPD.
In terms of the deployment plan, JMPD, the station commander for Cosmo City, will work closely with the station commissioner of the EMS fire station. So when there is a call out, where there's a fire, JMPD will accompany the fire engine.
But want to take resources away from the Metro Police's other duties? Well, the JMPD says it will only assist between 10 in the evening and 6 in the morning at few hotspots.
We do have capacity to be able to support the EMS staff because the problem area is Cosmo City at the moment. That's where the attack was this past weekend.
However, the JMPD will only be providing the services for the next 6 months. EMS says residents must help out.
The most important stakeholder is our communities we're serving, because the criminal elements who are conducting these criminal activities are within the community. Hence, we're stressing the issue of our communities looking after us.
While this temporary solution is implemented, authorities will be looking for a more permanent one to make sure those who save lives are themselves protected. Nqobile Madlala, Johannesburg.
1.1 billion rand. That's how much the Gauteng Health Department faces on medical negligence claims from this year alone. But it says many of these claims need to be vetted. Take a look.
There is a public outcry that some of our hospitals are becoming mortuaries instead of being sanctuaries for saving lives.
Gauteng Premier David Makhura decrying the state of healthcare in the province. Many who are laying claims against the Provincial Health Department voiced their frustrations to the media.
I've been working on this case for 2 years.
Like Bongegile Msibi, who says she had her uterus removed without her consent after giving birth at the Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital 13 years ago. More recently, there was the Life Esidimeni tragedy, which caused the deaths of over 140 psychiatric patients. Since the beginning of this year, the health department's received over 150 summonses in medical legal claims.
The problem is that our quality of care is then diluted by the fact that we are quite accessible. And in any situation where you've got that increased demand, which is beyond the resources, you will have some inappropriateness.
But since resources are so limited, are vacancies at hospitals being filled?
It is happening. It's just that it cannot be solved in one day.
Lawyers heading these litigations say claims are increasing nationwide.
From a clinical perspective, there's definitely a problem with regards to management in the hospitals in general. The level and expertise that's offered to patients, I think continuity plays a role between different shifts, and extremely poor record keeping. The administration in general is a big problem.
Gauteng is the province with the second most medical legal claims after the Eastern Cape. Masakora Tlhaga, Johannesburg. From being spied on by patients to harassment, the South African Human Rights Commission's heard accusations that medical aides are racially profiling some black, Indian and coloured healthcare professionals under the guise of combating corruption. The HRC has received submissions from the Healthcare Professionals Association, Discovery Health, GEMS and MedScheme. Yanke Tome reports.
From bullying and racial profiling to being unfairly forced into signing acknowledgements of debt because of questionable claims. That's what some black, coloured and Indian doctors claim they're facing.
If you have 100,000 so-called in fraud, aren't you supposed to report it to the fraud SAPS and SIU? And they have huge amounts that they demand, up to 10 million or 1 million or whatever. Yes, those monies. So we need a thorough investigation into these illegalities, because we believe that it's more of money-making scheme rather than actually combating corruption.
The group admits that some practitioners might be guilty of corruption, but says no white doctors seem to be facing the same treatment.
It is unacceptable. You have no way to express it. We were trained to see patients, but today, when you see a patient walk into your consulting room, you do not know whether this patient is a patient or is a spy.
But the medical aid schemes deny these allegations. They've also used the opportunity to highlight the extent of fraud in the sector, saying it has to be dealt with in a lawful way. Discovery maintains there's no proof of racial discrimination in the 10,000 cases it investigates every year.
If we could break down the 35 into GP specialists, different types of specialists and physiotherapists, OTs, and we can show you what proportion of physiotherapists are on our network. But I don't know what race they are. I don't know, and I don't want to know. I think that it's, we do not collect that information, and we don't believe we should be entitled to. That would create precisely the risks of the type of behaviour that we're standing here accused of today.
The Commission will now decide whether further steps, including a full investigation, should be taken. Janke Tolmay, Johannesburg.
Nearly half of South African teachers didn't want the job. This was revealed in the Teaching and Learning International Survey, which interviewed about 200 teachers in the country. The findings also revealed that out of 49 countries, South Africa experienced the most frequent school safety incidents. Janke Tolmay also has that report.
For some, teaching is a passion. But only 49% of teachers in South Africa cited it as their first career choice. Could this be because of what they faced with at school? 1 out of 3 principals reported acts of intimidation or bullying amongst pupils occur at least every week, while 1 of about 4 highlighted weekly incidents related to drugs, alcohol, vandalism and theft.
That as you look at the pointers and as you look at the entire education system, don't divorce it from what is happening in our country in terms of inequality, because the discipline in the classroom, the violence in the classroom is not something that you can divorce it from the inequality level that is there.
Principals also detailed significant shortages of learning materials and physical infrastructure. In addition, during a typical lesson, South African teachers spend 66% of classroom time actually teaching and learning. That's compared to the survey average of 78%.
Is it law and order, as the SG of SATU say, that with all the violence, bullying in classes and poor discipline, teachers spend most of their time really maintaining order in the classrooms? Is it sometimes even the structure of the schools? Is it administrative work that they have that in addition to teaching, they find themselves doing other social work?
On the positive side, the analysis shows almost all teachers cite the opportunity to influence children's development as a major motivation. Janke Tolmay, Pretoria.
It's been a busy week for the EFF. Leader Julius Malema was back in court. We'll bring you those details shortly.